Justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Neighbor, and he was a trusted public servant. He served admirably as my designated spokesperson on the board. So to me, that's a significant loss. And Madam Chairwoman, with your permission, I'd like to have a moment of silence for the late and lamented Commissioner Wayne Witherspoon.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Planning board, he had a strong sense of civic duty. He would post on Facebook that he was doing the people's business. And so when I asked his friend and another proud Patersonian, Benny Cook, to succeed him, he said, "I'm ready to do the people's business." So Benny Cook has a stellar reputation in and outside of our city. He was a leader in labor, in the labor union. He actually was the deputy director the Department of Public Works in Paterson, currently works in the county. He's the director of the Meals on Wheels program. He's my deputy mayor of Labor and Workforce Development. Proud to present to his colleagues, to everyone who's watching, my newest appointment, a gentleman who I feel is going to represent us just like Wayne did, with integrity, and he'll do it intelligently as well. My designated spokesperson on the planning board, Commissioner Benny Cook.
Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Okay, so do you want me to continue then, Maggie, with the rest of the meeting?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Saya, and congratulations, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioners, Planning Board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as Chairwoman of the City of Paterson's Planning Board, I call this meeting of 9 City of Paterson Clerk, that the public notice and advertisements have been published in the Herald News on September 4th, 2020, in accordance with the law, and that the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the Planning Board office, as is also the agenda listing the applications to be taken up by the Planning Board at this meeting. The procedure tonight will be in accordance with the rules, regulations, and bylaws as heretofore determined by the Planning Board at its office in the municipal complex in the city of Paterson.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to continue with the roll call. That was
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Ahmed.
Present.
Commissioner Brooks.
Present.
Commissioner Savalos.
Present.
Commissioner Cleves.
Present.
Commissioner Santana.
Present.
Commissioner Issa absent. Commissioner Udine.
Present.
Commissioner Cook.
Present.
Councilman Velez absent. Vice Chairman Mark Fisher.
Present.
And Chairwoman Janice Northrup.
Present.
Thank you. We have 9 commissioners present.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, notice pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act addressing the effect of coronavirus measures on the next public meeting and consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of Executive Order Number 107 given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip D. Murphy, the Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public meeting at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10:4- in or near the council chambers, 3rd floor, City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey. In-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order Number 107, public participation will be available by calling 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. Planning Board special meeting on September 14th at 6:30 p.m. on the date and time that the meeting is scheduled to commence. The public may also participate in the meeting by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonnj.gov, and following the email link for the meeting, www.patersonnj.gov/planningboard. So this evening we have two special meetings. We will begin with, bear with me, with JCM Investors 1012 LLC. Mr. Maricondo, are you representing them this evening?
I do represent the applicant, Madam Chair. Good evening.
Good
I believe 204, 210 Rosa Park is advertised for 6:30, I believe.
Yes, okay. So, the applicant proposes to demolish the existing structure on both lots and construct a 19 residential and commercial 3-story mixed-use building on the 9,550 square foot parcel. 2 commercial spaces of 499 square feet and 1,099 square feet, 1 studio unit, and 23 parking spaces are proposed on the first floor. The second and third floors each propose 7 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. There will be a total of 1 studio unit, 13 one-bedroom units, and 4 two-bedroom units. Variances are requested for rear yard setback as a minimum of 20 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Lot building coverage as a maximum of 80% is permitted and 90% is proposed. Open space amenity areas as 2,850 square feet is required and 1,212 square feet is proposed. This proposal is within the C-1 Neighborhood Commercial District of the 4th Ward Redevelopment Plan, and it requires site plan approval and bulk variances. Okay, Commissioner, Mr. Deutsch, would you please like to give us your review?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Property taxes and sewer charges are paid to date. Persons having a 10% or greater ownership interest in JCM Investors 1012 LLC is Matthew Florio, providing an address of 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey. Mark Safone, licensed surveyor of Lakeland Surveying, has prepared a survey dated February 4th, 2020. The survey indicates that the parcel is frontage of 92.5 feet on Rosa Parks Boulevard, also known as Graham Avenue, additional frontage of 103.25 feet on 12th Avenue, and side and rear dimensions of 92.5 feet and 103.25 feet. Parcel has area of 9,550 square feet for 0.22% of an acre. The survey also indicates that a 1-story commercial building uses as a supermarket and adjacent parking lot exists on the parcel. This proposal is located on the northwest corner of 12th Avenue and Rosa Parks Boulevard. Evans Architect has provided...
Excuse me, Mr. Deutsch. I hear background noise. Somebody's either got their phone on, their TV on, or something else, but there's a lot of background noise. So if anyone is not speaking right now, because it only should be Mr. Deutsch, please turn your microphones off. Thank you. Okay.
Evans Architects has provided a 4-page plan submittal dated March 6, 2020. Sheet number S1 is the site plan and details page. The plan indicates the zoning ordinance data, the tax map, the proposed site plan, a recharge pit detail, and the lighting detail. The proposed site plan indicates that the building is to be constructed on 90% of the lot. The intent of the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District is to provide for retail and personal service businesses which supply the everyday needs of the neighborhood residents. The intent of the district standards are to allow for convenience, retail, and service businesses to operate without disrupting the general small-scale residential character of the greater neighborhood area. Residential units are permitted above the first floor use. Sheet number S2 is the soil erosion and site details plan. The plan indicates the stabilized construction access, the sediment filter fence detail, the depressed driveway detail, the concrete sidewalk detail, the sanitary sewer connection, the water connection, the concrete vertical curb and roadway pavement widening, soil erosion, and sediment control notes. The proposed site plan indicates that the building will be placed along the entirety of the Rosa Parks Boulevard frontage of 92.5 feet and also along the entirety of the 12th Avenue frontage of 103 feet. The second and third stories of the building will cover 16 of the 23 parking spaces. Access into the parking area is through a 24-foot depressed curb cut located on 12th Avenue. Sheet number SK1 indicates the floor plans. The proposed first floor plan indicates a refuse room, a utility room, a sprinkler room, a tenant storage and bicycle storage room, a package and mail vestibule, 2 stairwells, 1 handicap accessible studio unit of 477 square feet, and 2 commercial units of 499 square feet and 1,099 square feet. The first floor plan also contains the 23 parking spaces, of which 1 is a handicap space and an additional 5 are tandem parking spaces. The main access into the building is from Rosa Parks Boulevard, and secondary access into the building is from 12th Avenue. The access into commercial space A and commercial space B are from Rosa Parks Boulevard. Both commercial spaces indicate a restroom, a mechanical closet, and a mop sink. The applicant should advise if there are specific uses proposed for the commercial spaces. There are a wide range of permitted first floor uses as described on page 40 of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. Child care centers and establishments selling alcohol are conditional uses requiring board approval. Other non-permitted uses that may be proposed will require a use variance. The second and third floor plans indicate that each floor have 7 one-bedroom units containing 620, 621, 2 units, 635, 668, 744, and 780 square feet, and 2 two-bedroom units containing 950 and 991 square feet. Each unit will include a mechanical closet, a washer and dryer, a full bathroom, a kitchen and living room, dining room area. Both the second and third floor plans include a fitness center and multi-purpose room for tenant use. A refuse and recycling room is indicated on the second and third floors. Sheet SK2 indicates the building elevation. The Rosa Parks Boulevard elevation indicates the 2 commercial units and the main building entrance on the first floor. The storefronts have a total of 9 glass windows in a frame finish surrounded by a brick veneer. The second and third floors have 8 sets of windows on each floor and 2 additional windows within the building stairwell. The staircase section of the building is a brick facade, and the remainder of the building is stucco and vinyl siding. The roof indicates a decorative cornice top. The building has a height of 32 feet. The 12th Avenue elevation indicates the overhead garage gate, 3 additional storefront windows, and the secondary stairwell access door. The first floor has a brick veneer, and the upper floors are stucco and vinyl sided. The upper floors indicate 6 sets of windows on each floor and 3 single windows on each floor. The north elevation, which faces the adjacent 3-story frame dwelling on Rosa Parks Boulevard, has 2 windows and a stucco finish on all floors. The western elevation, which faces the adjacent 2.5-story dwelling on 12th Avenue, the open parking area on the first floor, and a stucco finished building with 6 sets of windows on the second and third floors. The applicant is proposing a minimum of 15 feet of sidewalk on Rosa Parks Boulevard and 10 feet of sidewalk on 12th Avenue. The minimum lot area requirement of 2,000 square feet in the C1 zone recognizes that there are many existing buildings on smaller sized lots, and as a result, encourages older structures to be either rehabbed or built new without a larger lot area requirement in place. The consolidation of smaller parcels into larger parcels for development is also a goal of the redevelopment plan. The applicant requests zoning relief for the following proposed conditions. Variants are requested for rear yard setback as a minimum of 20 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Lot building coverage as a maximum of 80% is permitted and 100% lot building coverage is proposed. A 3-story building is permitted, and the applicant proposes, the applicant does propose a 3-story building, so that is not a variance. Open space amenity areas is 3,150 square feet is required and 701 square feet is proposed, and parking 22 spaces. No, the applicant does not need a parking variance, as he's providing more parking spaces than are required. That the responsibility of the applicant or preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. Surrounding land uses. This proposal is in the Wrigley Park section of the city within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. The area is primarily residential. Small grocery stores and other small retailers providing neighborhood services are located at corner and non-corner parcels. There's newer housing units interspersed with multi-unit older housing, abandoned housing, and some vacant lots. Including remarks. The applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $2 million. The applicant should incorporate the design elements contained within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. On February 24th, 2020, the applicant appeared before the planning board and was approved to demolish the existing structures at 225-227 Rosa Parks Boulevard and 229 Rosa Parks Boulevard, block 3506, lots 40 and 41, and construct a 4-story mixed-use building on the 6,092 square foot parcel. 491 square foot commercial space and 21 residential units were proposed. That is your staff review for this proposal, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Maricondo?
Yes, good evening again, Madam Chair. Thank you for hearing us again, special meeting basis tonight. We'll be calling 3 witnesses, architect and planner, Mr. Evans, tonight. Mr. Reed on behalf of the applicant, as well as our planner, Mr. Williams. We will be proceeding with Mr. Evans first. I'll just briefly indicate that we concur in Mr. Deutsch's report. We will fill in or amplify on a couple points that he reviewed with the board. And we do believe this is a very exciting project within the redevelopment zone. It is located in that area of the neighborhood commercial district, which allows for some services and neighborhood businesses, which we'll discuss as we move forward. We believe the design and interior makeup of this building is very positive in terms of redevelopment. That being said, we'll call Mr. Evans as our first witness tonight.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Mr. Evans, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record.
Matthew Evans, I'll be testifying as an architect this evening, 470 Chamberlain Ave, Paterson, New Jersey.
And we recognize him as an expert witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, obviously you heard Mr. Deutsch's report this evening, is that correct?
Yeah.
And pursuant to that report and your site plan which you prepared tonight, which you have posted, could you give us your overview of the plan as it's presently constituted?
Okay, basically I concur with Mr. Deutsch's presentation of our proposal, and what we have is a totally new development on the site, which would be removing all the existing improvements, building, and providing a new mixed-use apartment, commercial, with the parking in the rear.
So pursuant to that general concept, you're posting this is the first page of your site plan, is that correct?
Yes, I think everybody can see the site plan I posted.
Believe so.
Okay, so basically what we have the 3-story mixed-use structure shown on the site plan, and that would be with the entrance on vehicular entrance is a 2-way entrance on 12th Avenue that accesses a semi-open garage with 23 parking spaces with underneath the building and to the rear of the structure. The front along Rosa Parks would be predominantly the mixed use and the commercial aspect on the first floor. And, we propose little site lighting around the perimeter, new curbs and sidewalks, so it would be all new, improvements. This would be consistent with, another development we did, adjacent, on the opposite corner of Governor and Rosa Parks, which is a mixed-use building. But this one, we do provide, parking on site, and we are not requesting a variance. We have an excess of parking as a, based on, the site and the way it's suited for this, we were able to fit a lot of parking, on this development.
And your interior design, as Mr. Deutsch discussed, we have mirror images on the residential floors?
Yeah, so basically, the second and third floor, we have the first floor, which has a handicap unit, adjacent to, off of the 12th Avenue side, and we have 477 square feet, which meets the minimum requirement. It's fully accessible off of the main apartment stair, and then we have the apartment entry. We have 2 sets of stairs for the apartments, and we have large apartments throughout the second and third floor. Which meet the minimum requirement of 600 and 900 square feet. We have some one bedrooms that are even 780, 744 square feet, which are large one bedrooms, which is a nice amenity for this type of project. We have a fitness center and a multi-purpose tenant amenity space on each floor. And we have large refuse recycling area for each of those floors. So that would be the layout. We have also predominantly the Rosa Parks elevation. It's the grade changes. It's hard to tell, when you're on the site, but we do have a grade change that slopes down towards 12th Avenue. And we've stepped the building entrances in accordance with the grading of existing contour of Rosa Parks. So we have that. We have large storefront windows and gooseneck lamps, signage, and a mix of materials of stucco, brick, and a large cornice, decorative cornice for the facade. That would carry over to the 12th Avenue elevation. We have large windows for the apartments, and we also have that same architectural element on that side. It's a little flatter. The grading is on 12th Avenue, so you can see it's about a foot or so changes in grade. So we've accommodated for that on the 12th Avenue elevation.
I think, Madam Chair, I would conclude Mr. Evans' architectural presentation. He's available for any questions by the commissioner as well as the public, of course, at this time.
Okay, at this moment, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Anyone who's
Madam Chair,
Yes?
Wilma Brooks, before you go there, I'm looking at, I was listening to Michael, and my paperwork is different. I'm showing like a lot. What's the address that you're showing? I'm showing 159-161 12th Avenue.
That's the next one.
No, that's the next one, Commissioner Brooks. It's 204-210 Rosa Parks Boulevard.
Oh, boy, well, okay, I don't have that one.
Perhaps, Madam Secretary can send you the copy.
Yes, what do you need?
I only had the one for 159, 161 12th Avenue. I don't have.
Alright, I'll resend it, but I did send it to everyone.
Yeah, she has
I'll
two
do it right now.
It's the Rosa Parks Boulevard, Madam Secretary.
Yes, you have it, thank you. Alright.
Alright, so in the meantime, well.
How is she sending it, Astor? Because I'm on, is she sending it to my email or to my?
To your email.
Never mind, it's
To
okay.
your email.
All right, okay.
Okay, all right, so then I'm gonna open up any questions, okay? For Mr. Evans, the architect, okay, please, but this is to the public, please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'm gonna ask for everybody to turn their microphones off, please, because there's background music, there's background noise. Whoever has their phone on or microphone, please turn it off. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna give the number again to the public, because I think it was kind of, it's 973-321, no, I'm sorry, somebody still has their microphone on. Whoever has their microphone on, please turn it off. Okay, again, to the public, 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. Okay, and, I'll allow 2 minutes for call-in, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have no callers at this time, but we do have one caller at the end of this meeting who would like to make some comments. They're an elderly couple, so I would ask that you let me know when you're ready for them at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Well, I'll be ready for comments at the end, so I hope they can hold tight. And in the meantime.
Yes, they will.
Okay, so if there's no callers that are calling in, I'm gonna open this up to the commissioners for questions. Any commissioners have any questions of Mr. Evans? Commissioners, none? Alright, I have a question. Okay, Mr. Evans, there is some commercial space, am I correct in saying there's some commercial space there?
Yes, we have 2 commercial tenant spaces on, basically they face Rosa Parks. One is 400, almost 500 square feet, and the other one's almost 1,100 square feet.
Okay, so has there been any, do you know, or maybe I should say this for Mr. Reed, has there been any, decisions as to what type of businesses you plan on putting into that space?
Madam Chair, if I could, we would like to defer to Mr. Reed and Mr. Williams primarily. However, we will stipulate there will be no sale of alcohol beverages, nothing of that nature planned on that site. And we will definitely comply with the permitted uses that Mr. Deutsch referred to. There are many of in that redevelopment plan. And I'll hope that Andy can give us some more detail, hopefully.
Okay, good, then I'll wait and hold my questions for them. Alright, commissioners, are there any commissioners that have any questions for Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Jean, if you permit.
Yes, please, go ahead, Commissioner.
Alright, so exactly the same question you have asked about commercial area, that how you're going to use, so I heard the answer from them. And so my question is, you have provided 23 parking spaces, which is 2 extra spaces, I can say. Thank you for the extra 2 spaces. And so how many of the parking spaces will be used by the commercial area of the property? Do you have any idea? And how many will be used by the residential use?
I wouldn't know, defer to Mr. Reed on the allotment of the parking spaces, but there's ample parking for both commercial and the residential. So I don't think it would be a negative in that fact.
Yeah, our applicant and our planner will definitely be able to, I think, to respond fully. Again, we do believe that there might be some crossover of spaces in terms of the allotment after business hours, but I know the applicant and the planner will be able to cover that point for you.
So we'll save those questions, Commissioner Dean, we'll ask our questions then, okay, when we talk to the planner, Mr. Reed.
Okay, alright, great, so I'm gonna wait for the,
Yes, any other questions?
not for now, so I'm gonna see questions for the later.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Before I move on, does anyone, I hear somebody else's microphone on, so please turn them off. And does anyone else have any questions of Mr. Evans? Okay, hearing none, okay, please call your next witness, Mr. Mariano.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to Mr. Reed at this point and then to Mr. Williams next.
Okay.
After Mr. Reed.
Okay.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Hold on. Mr. Reed, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Andy Reed, R-E-I-D,
Andy, just for the record, your position with JCM Investors,
Director of Development.
and as such, you're fully familiar with this project before the board this evening?
Yes.
And as also heard Mr. Deutsch's report, Mr. Evans' testimony. I know we have some background in terms of other developments in this immediate area also as well, is that right?
Yes.
And as such, your project management group is very familiar with this site. The existing structures, as Mr. Evans talked about, will be demolished, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and with this, with the benefit of the neighborhood commercial district and the C1 portion of the redevelopment zone, as the chair and Commissioner Dean have alluded to, we are able to provide new housing, provide on the upper levels and more than required parking spaces. Would you give us an idea, if you know yet, what the remaining uses in that zone?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, hold on. There's background noise. I'm gonna please ask once again for everyone to shut their microphones off. Please, if there's background noise, and Mr. Reed, if he goes to answer the question, we're not gonna be able to hear. So please, thank you.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
So, Mr. Reed, with that in mind, has the applicant made any decisions, or at this point, is it just a matter of complying with only permitted uses at this point?
Yes, applying to the permitted uses. Wouldn't be like, restaurants or, liquor establishments, bars, or anything of that nature.
Okay, so we
Yes.
Okay, and we'll have Mr. Williams elaborate as well on that point. With the 23 parking spaces, we have more than required. Do you have a plan for allocating spaces, residential, commercial, or do you feel this is gonna be an easy mix to work together?
It's gonna be an easy mix, to work together. We probably designate the, parking space next to the, handicap space and the two right to the, left of those for the, commercial use and the remainder for the residential, but it'll be a working place. We usually work these things out real simple.
Okay, and of course, some of your tenants do not require parking, as you testified before?
Yes.
All right, so you would say perhaps 3 spaces would be designated for commercial? Am I reading you correctly on that? Or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Mr. Reed, at this point, other than, Andy, your standard lighting and security practices will be in place?
Yes.
And the professional 24-hour security system and guard system will be in effect?
Yes, as we have throughout that whole, area.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, unless you have something else, Andy.
No, I'm gonna ask Commissioner Udine. Commissioner Udine, does that answer your question?
Chairman, yeah, it does, but point is, I feel like if it is distributed, that would be, better for the residents who, live in this property. Because think about, we are not sure about what commercial, use we are going to have and what's going to be the, depends on customer service or providing. Is it going to be busy, anything, which is going to have overcrowded people who are gonna take all the parking spaces. And the people living in this property, they are suffering for the parking spaces.
I think we indicated very specifically, but Andy can reinforce it again, that we would make sure that every residential unit would have a space allocated to it. And then we're estimating about 3 spaces would be earmarked for the commercial. These are intended to be small walking service businesses that meet the day-to-day needs primarily of the residents in this building, but also the immediate area to some degree, which is the tradition in our neighborhood communities on the corner properties, but it's also been codified by the redevelopment plan, which has worked very successfully on other corner property developments. But if you need more elaboration on that, we'll be glad to follow up.
So, thank you, I'm sorry, I think I missed that part. So you said, 3 parking spaces will be, I'm sorry,
Yes,
restate, I missed something here.
yes, the 3 parking spaces will be dedicated to commercial, but all the tenants will have a dedicated parking for the residential tenants.
Got it, alright, thank you so much, that part I totally missed.
Okay.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Jerome.
You're quite welcome. Okay, okay, so there's no other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks?
Mr. Reed,
Yes, Commissioner.
I didn't have the information before me before, so I didn't follow exactly what, Matt is saying. Can you explain to me what's going on in the rear of that building, since you don't have any rear footage in the back? It's gonna be an alleyway on the sides, and what's gonna be in the back, since you don't have any, you have 0 feet proposed. You're supposed to have 20 and you have none. So what's gonna be in the back of that building? You got a wall or something? What?
Well, can Matt address the architecturals on that?
Sure, good.
Matt, the rear of the property, woman didn't have the benefit of the plan in front of her.
Okay, we have, basically, we have the rear, there are some, parts of the building that come up to the, property line. The garage is open, on that section, so it varies, but there are 0 lot lines, but the other conditions, let me see, did I post this? You're gonna post it again?
Yeah.
I'm just concerned, is there an alleyway or something back there?
No, it's 0, there's no way, nobody can sneak around that between the building, it's right on the property, there's a retaining wall, as you can see here, and the refuse room, so if you're looking at that, I'll show you the elevation, on 12th Ave. That's basically the corner where the garage door is, it's all wall, and then that's right on the line, so there's no, like, there's 3-4 feet or anything like that, so it's really buttoned up the corners.
Okay, so
Somebody can congregate back there, that's very important.
that's what I wanted to know, because, the side of the building is something adjacent to that, I didn't have a chance to ride by there today. What's on either side of this?
There's a structure, near it, here, let me get, so you can see there's a 2.5-story frame dwelling
Okay.
at the, that side, and then there's another one on, on the Rosa Park side, so there's similar structures, but that's not our property.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So please call your next witness then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll call Mr. Williams as our planner.
Okay?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You're muted.
I most certainly do.
Say your,
Give me a little bit.
how are you?
I'm well, how are you doing?
Good. Your full name?
Certainly, good evening, Commissioners. My name is George Weedle Williams with an S, representing the Nishwayne Group, a planning consultancy in Montclair, New Jersey, 105 Grove Street, suite number 3 and 4.
Yes, and we accept Mr. Williams as an expert witness. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could begin by saying welcome to the new Commissioner Cook, and my sincerest condolences about Commissioner Witherspoon. I was taken aback by the mayor's announcement, so he will be missed. Different colors than I do, but a good guy nonetheless.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for those comments. Someday we're gonna be waiting to hear when you announce that you have a branch office in Paterson as well, you know?
I'm working on that.
Thanks a lot. We will proceed with Mr. Williams as our planner, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Can we
please.
stipulate his credentials, or?
Yes, we did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Williams, obviously you've heard all the testimony and Mr. Deutsch's report. We can let you proceed from there.
Yes, I heard El Jefe's report, and we agree with his testimony. I think I'm going to switch up the testimony a little bit and begin with an exhibit. I guess we have to mark this. This is one of our traditional storybook exhibits that is a compilation of images, some taken from the land use documents, others from our site visit.
Okay, that, Madam Court Reporter, I assume you can indicate that? Okay,
Exhibit A1?
yes.
Okay.
George, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Maricanda. So again, this is property commonly known as 204-210 Rosa Parks Boulevard, also Graham. And the first image that I'll be showing, number 2, is simply an aerial photograph of the area depicting our property or subject property with the bold yellow boundaries. And you'll note we added some of the other projects from JCM, the applicant, in the immediate vicinity. I think that's particularly important for this application. This board knows well, and our new commissioner will learn quickly, I'm sure, if he doesn't know already. The intent and purpose of the redevelopment plan, as Mr. Deutsch mentioned, is really to stimulate areas within marked by indicators of distress, stress indicated by abandoned lots, vacant lots, abandoned properties, unpaid taxes, properties in a state of disrepair. And as this board knows probably better than I, when you drive around this particular section of the 4th Ward redevelopment area, there are many indicators of distress. And so from a planning perspective, the introduction of this type of quality mixed-use development not only meets the intent and purpose of the redevelopment plan, but will have a marked impact in a positive way in this section of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. So you can see in this area we have 210 Governor Street, 196 Rosa Parks Boulevard, and 113-117 12th Avenue to the applicant's credit. Again, you've heard me say this before, I'll say it tonight as well. The other purpose of a redevelopment plan is to incentivize development and investment. JCM has demonstrated the capacity to meet that challenge by investing and developing significantly in the redevelopment area. And the intent or goal is, from the city's perspective, that development will beget development. So it's our hope that as if this board approves the application, this is going to signal to other investors and developers that this is a great place to do business. Slide number 3 is just a capture from your redevelopment plan showing what you've heard from Mr. Deutsch already, and that is that this property is located in your 4th Ward redevelopment area in a neighborhood commercial district. Getting to slide number 4, where we now pick up some of the images captured during our site visit. A couple things here. You can see the old supermarket, which was in a state of disrepair, now since closed. Certainly not contributing anything positive to this section of Rosa Parks Boulevard. And as many of you know, the redevelopment plan calls out Rosa Parks Boulevard as an important neighborhood commercial corridor in Paterson in general, but certainly for the redevelopment area. Commissioner Brooks asked about the property behind. I don't know if we captured the frontal view of that property, but you can see the roof pitch of that property on 12th Avenue behind this property. You can also see some of the grade changes that were mentioned by Mr. Evans during his testimony, and a bit of the retaining wall as well in this picture. This is the, if you're facing our property, to the right of our property is the other tax lot, which served as parking for the supermarket when the supermarket was active. It also captures the property mentioned by Matt Evans, a GR property, another multifamily development. Slide number 6 just gives you a sense of some of the residential development further along on Rosa Parks Boulevard. Picture to the left is 202, center is 200, and then to the right, 198 Rosa Parks Boulevard. And then you have some of the properties that were mentioned above in the aerial exhibit, the other JCM property developments in the vicinity, and you get a sense of some of the scale and massing. These are entirely residential, so what's being proposed on Rosa Parks Boulevard is a bit different in as much as it is in the neighborhood commercial district and does include use development. What I'd like to say, just looking at this picture before I close that part out and move into the proofs, is this kind of investment is exactly what the Fourth Ward redevelopment plan envisions, and that is to remove the conditions of what we used to call blight when I was in graduate school, but any indication of distressed economy, and you can see they've been very successful. So with that, I'll move to the purpose of the redevelopment plan and the proofs. The intent of the C1 district in your Fourth Ward redevelopment area is, and I quote, to provide for retail and personal service businesses which supply the everyday needs of neighborhood residents. The intent of the district standards are to allow for convenience retail and service business to operate without disrupting the general small-scale residential character of the greater neighborhood area. And I think that's what Maricano was intimating when he was responding to one of the questions. The intent and purpose of this mixed-use development really is to have convenience services for the tenants of the building and the immediate surrounding area. In terms of the reliefs, so we would agree with all of the reliefs recited in Mr. Deutsch's review, as well as the captured in Mr. Evans's zoning table. As far as the overview, this is another application we think will contribute significantly to the housing stock. That is one of the goals and objectives of your master plan, to have quality housing in the redevelopment area. It will also add local commercial services. Again, specifically the intent of the neighborhood commercial business district, as I just mentioned. And last but not least, it will certainly catalyze revitalization within the neighborhood by removing a subpar development at an integral corner or intersection of the Fourth Ward redevelopment area. And last but not least, as you've heard, we will provide more than the required parking spaces on this site. Dedicated spaces for the commercial tenants and dedicated spaces for each of the residential tenants. Very quickly, the redevelopment plan includes amongst its goals and objectives, A, revitalize the redevelopment ward, reduce blighting impacts of abandonment and vacant properties, provide quality new housing options for area residents, promote mixed-use development, which we are doing, and create a cohesive and vibrant commercial district to serve local population. Again, one of the reasons for showing some of the other JCM properties in the areas, it speaks to the cohesive development in this area. With respect to the reliefs, in my professional opinion, you could use the C2 context, which allows the board to consider whether the benefits outweigh the detriments, and if on the whole, what's being proposed is a better zoning alternative than the strict application of your code. And it's interesting as we think about the rear yard setback, hearing the discussion or response by Mr. Evans to Commissioner Brooks' question about that rear yard setback. We would argue, and I'll go through each of them separately, but we would argue that the build out of this important corner lot presents a better massing and scale for the section of Rosa Parks, and it's a trade-off that makes sense to lose that backyard setback so that we can have adequate parking on site and really maximize this corner lot. As this board knows, to grant the C2 relief, we have to demonstrate that the purposes of zoning are advanced. In my professional opinion, several purposes of zoning as articulated in the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law would be advanced. Subsection J, to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of the environment through improper use of land. Excuse me. That is particularly appropriate in all redevelopment areas, but certainly in the Paterson areas where you have substantial infrastructure and are able to do infill development that takes advantage of that infrastructure, as opposed to developing in suburban and exurban areas of the state. Subsection M, to provide or encourage coordination of various public and private procedures and shaping the development of land. Being an appropriate mixed-use development, the project combines multiple compatible uses on-site, which therefore are cost-effective and spatially efficient. Last but not least, certainly to promote subsection I, to promote a desirable visual environment through good creative good development techniques and good civic design. You've heard me say this before, both are equally important. Both the aesthetic that was described by Mr. Evans during his testimony, that is the aesthetic of the building with its roof line changes, the material articulation, and the separation of the commercial and residential, but more importantly, the storefront windows and how that will certainly improve the streetscape on this section of Rosa Parks Boulevard. But also the civic design. So Matt's attention to addressing the changes in topography of this site, locating the garage on 12th Avenue as opposed to Rosa Parks, so that we get to build that street front for the commercial build out, all good civic design. And so if you were to approve this application, you would, in my professional opinion, advance those purposes of zoning. Under the Afuso court case, it's been established that the promotion of a state policy can also be considered as part of the benefits or showing that it's rooted in the purposes of zoning. If ever there were an example of smart growth development, this application would be that example. Mixed-use development, compact dense development in urban areas, and investment in redevelopment areas, it would certainly do all of that. The C2 has to be balanced with the negative criteria. In my opinion, if you were to grant each of the bulk and area deviations, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good. In fact, I would argue that those deviations create a development package where the benefits far outweigh any detriments, replacing a derelict property, creating more than adequate parking on the site, incentivizing revitalization in the area to this kind of quality mixed-use development. Similarly, there would be no substantial impairment to your zone plan. In point of fact, if you were to grant this application, you would advance the purposes of your redevelopment plan and your master plan, as I intimated earlier in my testimony. So if you look at the application as a whole, in my professional opinion, the board could comfortably grant the requested release in the broad context of the development, because all of the aggregate of the benefits far outweigh any detriments. In my opinion, there actually are no detriments. So for all those reasons, I conclude my testimony.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If anyone has any questions of Mr. Williams based on his testimony, to please call in. This is not the comment section yet, but I will ask anyone who has questions of Mr. Williams to please call in on 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll give 2 minutes for questions. 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions.
Truman Northwood, we have no callers at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will open up questions then to the commissioners. Any commissioners have any questions of Mr. Williams based on his testimony this evening?
I have a question.
Is that Commissioner Cleves?
Yes,
Okay, please go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Williams regarding slide number 7. Can you tell me how many, that building, how many stories is that building, the larger building? Or is that one building?
Yes, Commissioner, sorry about that. So this is 3 stories over parking.
So is that what, the building, is going to look like? It's gonna be 3 stories over parking?
Yeah. So similar, yes, similar. So the image that Matt showed earlier with the elevation, and maybe we'll put that back up if that would be helpful. It'll be the residential units over commercial and parking.
Just one clarification though, this is only gonna be 2 stories over one, so it's a total of 3 stories.
Correct.
2 separate buildings you're looking at.
Okay, because that's 3 stories over parking, so it's going to be 2 stories.
2 stories over parking.
Yes.
Okay, and, number 5. So will the height of that building be like comparable to that, edifice right there on Rosa Parks Boulevard, or is it gonna be a little higher?
It's gonna be compatible to that one right there, yes.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
my question.
I'm sorry.
Okay, any other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Williams?
I do, Wilma Brooks.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks.
Mr. Williams, I didn't hear, I might have been wrong, because I haven't had a chance to really look at this thing, because I was looking at the wrong one, but I haven't heard anybody say anything about open space. And, since there's not gonna be any rear yard, or side yard or anything, you don't think it's a detriment that there is no open space here for this building? Mr. Williams?
Sorry, Commissioner, yes, good question. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
90 kilograms, 1,200 amenities space.
That's a June.
Maybe, Alan, maybe Matt could discuss the menu date for, Commissioner Brooks, because maybe she didn't get to that, hear that part, so maybe just.
Yeah, because I was looking at the wrong one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Mr. Evans testified to some extent about the substantial amenity space internally. So, Mr. Deutsch's report, if you do have an opportunity to review it again, talks about us providing over 1,200 square feet of such space. Mr. Evans and Mr. Williams are each able to further elaborate if you wish.
1,200 square feet of what space, subspace? So you're talking about
We
basement?
have an amenity space, we have a multi-purpose room, on each floor, and a fitness center, on the, adjacent to that on each floor. We also have on the first floor, we have the tenant, we have bicycle storage, for the tenants, and there are, all the apartments are large. I mean, we have a 1-bedroom, which is 780 square feet for a 1-bedroom, which is about almost 200 square feet over.
Somebody turn your microphone on, please.
Okay. All right, okay, so you're saying that the amenities, because you have the, communities room, you could substitute that for the open space?
The internal fitness amenity space is very substantial, and if you look at Mr. Deutsch's report, his zoning chart analysis, he does indicate that as responding to the requirements for open space. We realize there's not a lot of open exterior space.
No, there's no real, green area in the architect's specs, but there are amenities which we, applied as per the, Fourth Ward redevelopment.
Okay, and did I miss something about any greenery outside? Is this gonna be just like that building that you just showed up here with no trees or anything?
No, we showed trees on the site plan we have, and
Oh, okay.
We have trees, we have one, one, two, three
Okay.
on 12th Ave, and we have 3 on
Okay.
trees. There are gonna be 3 on Rosa Parks and 3 on 12th Ave.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners have any questions?
No.
I'm sorry?
No?
It was no. Okay, we have no other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Williams. Okay, so at this time then I will open it up for comments from the public. Okay, and you can call in please at 973-321-1579 and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-in, 3 minutes for your comments. Thank you.
Jill in Northrop, we are going to put the, last commission, interested party on.
Yes.
She actually lives in front of this building, this building belongs, I think, on the rear of her property. It's gonna take us a couple of minutes, so if you'd like to proceed with commissioners, then I'll come back to the
No,
public.
I already did. No,
Okay, then give me like 2 minutes, please, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
She is calling in right now, we will have her on in 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chairman, can I make a comment real quick?
Not at this moment, I just got her on, just 30 seconds, please, 30 seconds.
Mr. Rito, after this, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Chairman.
We're trying to delete interference at this time, so we're just having a little glitch. Just give me 1 second. We're trying to call her back to find out what's wrong, but before I vote, we have to have her on.
Why didn't she stay on? Why didn't she just hang on the line? That's what I thought she was doing.
I wish she would, but Madam Chair, they're elderly and have a little difficulty. They don't have a computer. And I'm
Okay,
trying
all
to
right,
get them on.
Okay, it's okay, I just was
Thank you.
wondering.
No, I understand, but we lost her, so we gotta get her back on. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. If anyone is not muted, please mute. That includes you, Mr. Cook. I think you're open mic. Are you?
No.
Thank you. Now you are. She's connected. Give me 1 second. Mr. Aquaviva, she's gonna need your guidance.
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. We're almost there, everyone. Please give me one moment. Mr. Aquaviva, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, she's elderly and her husband, so what she's doing is she's calling the IT back instead of getting on the line. We're trying to comprehend with her to call. Because she does live right next to this property, so do you recommend that I just let it go or continue what I'm doing? Because I think that we can get her on through my cell and I can connect you to the line.
Well, one way or the other, we have to have a record. So
That's correct.
whatever the easiest way is to have her somehow on the record.
Okay, that's what I mean,
That's what
because
we're looking at is.
I don't know if by law, this is what I'm asking, she has to be on because you can't vote without.
Yeah, she has to be on the record. Yeah, absolutely. She has to be on the record, and, you know, someone essentially acting as a middle person for her would not satisfy the statute.
Exactly, that's why I wanted to explain it with you to the commissioners, and I know it's a little time consuming, but she doesn't understand, but I will get her on in about 5 minutes. If not, we're gonna connect her to my cell phone, I will put her on my mic, and we'll figure it out from there.
Okay, that sounds good.
That's
Yeah,
fine, okay, that's what I thought it would work best, so we're working on that right now.
Yep, you're correct.
Commissioners, Chairwoman Northrup, can we have a 5-minute break? Everyone can use the restroom, and we'll fix this by the time you get back. With your permission, Madam Chair.
Yes, 5 minutes, please. Everyone take a break.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm back, give me 30 seconds, everyone, and, Mr. Aquaviva, I will give you the outcome in 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Aquaviva, they're still trying, and it's not, I think she's dialing the wrong number. I really cannot answer, and I don't want it on the record. But this is now the time for you, Mr. Aquaviva, to make a decision and accommodate the commissioners and the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Madam Chair, based upon what our Secretary is stating, she has attempted to accommodate this individual in terms of trying to question some witnesses for, by my last check, over 12 minutes. We attempted to accommodate her by calling in directly, as the rules provide. Our Secretary has also tried to connect her directly to IT, through IT, and actually through her own cell phone, so that this person can go on the record. It appears that all of these efforts just aren't working. Based upon that, my recommendation to the board is to continue the meeting. There is no witness and there is no questioning.
Okay, I agree. I think everybody's been patient. We do have another meeting after this. We have other meetings to get to. We've tried, I was really hoping they would have stayed on the line, as I thought was mentioned earlier in the meeting, but I will take your recommendation, and I think we need to move forward. So, that being said, we've already had our comments. I would now open it up. Would any commissioner, would you like to summarize, first of all, Mr. Maricondo?
Madam Chair, thank you. Very briefly, I thank the Chair and the Secretary for their efforts in trying to get communication established, but I think, Mr. Aquaviva, at this point, there was no alternative to proceeding at this point as well. We just want to reiterate and summarize that we think this is really an outstanding application in the C1 section of the redevelopment plan. It accomplishes what the zone asks us to do, and the governing body asks us to do, as per Mr. Evans and Mr. Williams' testimony, is to provide that kind of quality housing with substantial parking, with small service-oriented businesses, which is really a throwback to the neighborhoods we grew up in Paterson. And we asked the board to move forward with a motion for approval based on the proven track record of this applicant in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Ceballos.
Yes, an application for GCM Investors 1012 LLC for 49 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 07524. Property located in 204 210 Rosa Parks Boulevard, Block 35-1, lots 19 and 20. I request that the Board Council prepare a resolution granting a site plan approval, all variances, see the engineer, HEP Soil Conservation District, at your convenience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Santana?
Yes, Commissioner Santana, seconded. Okay, roll call, please, Maggie.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioners, Commissioner Well, before I, continue with the vote, would you, Mr. Aquaviva, would you think that I should put her name on the record, the person who tried to communicate, or just not do that at all?
No, Madam Secretary, she wasn't a witness and she didn't question, so, no, there's no need to put her name on the record.
Okay, thank you, I just wanted to make sure I did the right thing. Okay, Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Thank you, welcome, Chairwoman. Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Savalos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cleaves,
Yes.
Commissioner Santana,
Yes.
Commissioner Udine,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fisher,
Yes.
and our newly appointed Mayor's Representative, Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Norton.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
This application has been granted, thank you.
All right, so that being said, we've already taken our break. So we're gonna open up, may I have a motion to close this meeting?
Motion to close.
Motion to close, was that Commissioner Udine? No, Commissioner
Second.
Fisher. Commissioner Fisher, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zavai. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So
Aye.
all in favor, close that meeting out. And I'm going to open up the next meeting by asking
Can you give me 2 minutes to close this one?
Yes, I sure will. Just let me know when you're ready then.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, 10-3 now. 10-3, one of my girls sent it to me. 10-3.
Someone's mic is open.
Mr. Rakonda, if you want to speak to your girl, your office staff, we hear you.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Commissioners, planning board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as chairwoman of the City of Paterson's Planning Board, I call this meeting of 9/14/20 to order. I hereby state that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey public meeting law have been fully and completely met, that the notice of provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office and with the City of Paterson clerk, that the public notice and advertisements have been published in the Herald News on 9/4/20 in accordance with the law, and that the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file on the Planning Board office, as is also the agenda listing the applications to be taken up by the Planning Board at this meeting. The procedures tonight will be in accordance with the rules, regulations, and bylaws as heretofore determined by the Planning Board at its office in the municipal complex in the City of Paterson. Roll call, please.
Commissioners, Commissioner Ahmed,
Present.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Savalos,
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves,
Present.
Commissioner Santana,
Present.
Commissioner Issa absent, Commissioner Udine. Please filing papers, please mute your mic. Commissioner Udine, are you present?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cook,
Present.
Councilman Velez is absent, Vice Chairman Fisher,
Present.
and Chairwoman Northrop.
Here.
There are 9 commissioners present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Okay, notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act addressing elective coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of Executive Order Number 107, given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020, by Governor Philip D. Murphy, the Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10:4-8, commencing on April 15, 2020. Though there may potentially be a practical need for a limited number of administrative, technical, or other city personnel to be present in or near the council chambers, 3rd floor, City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey, in-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order Number 107, public participation will be available by calling 1-973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. Planning Board Special Meeting of Monday, September 14, 2020 at 7 p.m. on the date and time that the meeting is scheduled to commence. The public may also participate in the meeting by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonmj.gov, and following the email link for the meeting, www.patersonmj.gov/planningboard. So the second application this evening is JCM Investors, 1012 LLC, and Mr. Maricondo, are you representing them this evening?
I'm representing JCM Investors 1012 with regard to this application. Yes, Alan Maricondo on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So the applicant proposes to remove the existing structure on the parcels and construct a new 5-story residential building with a total of 20 units. The basement includes a gym/community room, a restroom, storage, and a refuge and utility room. The first floor proposes 8 parking spaces, a mail room, a lobby, an elevator, and 2 stairwells. The second through 5th floors proposes a 276 square foot tenant meeting room, a 440 square foot studio unit, and 1-bedroom units of 604, 632, 649, and 706 square feet on each floor. The parcel has area of 5,000 square feet. This proposal is within the RA-2 zone of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. Variances for front yard setback, 1 side yard setback, rear yard setback, building height, lot building coverage, lot impervious coverage, parking, and open space are requested. A front yard setback of a minimum of 3 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. A minimum side yard setback of 5 feet is required. I think that was just and feet is proposed. A minimum rear yard setback of 20 feet is required and 8 feet is proposed. A maximum building height of 45 feet is required and 45 feet 11 inches is proposed. A maximum building lot coverage of 60% is permitted and 88% is proposed. A maximum impervious coverage of 80% is permitted and 83% is proposed. 20 off-street parking spaces are required and 8 off-street parking spaces are proposed. 3,000 square feet of office space. 3,000 square feet of open space is required and 2,000 square feet of amenity and open space are provided. And it requires site plan approval and bulk variances. Okay, Mr. Maricondo?
If we are ready to proceed, subject to Mr. Deutsch's report, of course.
Okay.
Yes, we're ready to proceed, subject to Mr. Deutsch's report.
I'm sorry, hold on, this phone's ringing here and I can't shut them off. Okay, Mr. Deutsch, would you give us your review, please?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Property taxes and sewer charges are current. Persons having 10% or greater ownership interest in JCM Investors 1012 LLC is Matthew Florio, providing an address at 449 East 18th Street, Paterson, New Jersey. As indicated on the property survey prepared by Mark Zafone, surveyor, Lakeland survey dated December 9, 2019. The combined parcels of lots 41 and 42 of frontage of 50 feet on 12th Avenue, a rear lot line that also measures 50 feet, a western side lot line that measures 100 feet, and an eastern side lot line that also measures 100 feet. Two one-story frame dwellings and a masonry garage exist on the parcel and are to be removed. The combined parcels of area of 5,000 square feet or 0.12 acres. This proposal is located on the northern side of 12th Avenue, which is a
Excuse me, Mr. Deutsch, please, one moment. Again, I'm gonna ask, if you have your microphone on, please shut it off. There's background noise here when, Mr. Deutsch is trying to give us his review. Thank you.
This proposal is located on the northern side of 12th Avenue, which is a one-way street in a easterly direction. This proposal is also located 100 feet east of the intersection of Rosa Parks Boulevard and 12th Avenue. Evans Architect has prepared a 4-page architectural submittal dated February 20th, 2020. Drawing S1 is the site plan. Details are shown for the sanitary sewer connection, seepage pit section, the water connection, barrier-free parking detail, concrete vertical curb, and roadway pavement widening, the zoning ordinance data, and the 200-foot radius map. The existing condition site plan indicates two one-story masonry dwellings and a masonry garage. The proposed site plan indicates that the new building is proposed to cover 80% of the lot and has an approximate dimension of 92 feet in length and 45 feet in width. The building is proposed to be on the front property line, 8 feet from the rear property line, 5 feet from the western side property line, and to be placed on the eastern side property line. To the west and to the east, 2.5-story frame dwellings will remain 2.7 feet and 0.9 feet from the common side property lines shared with the parcel in question. A 12-foot curb cut is proposed on 12th Avenue to provide vehicular access into the garage. Two street trees are also proposed to be placed in front of the building. A note on the plan indicates the entire site and site perimeter is to be equipped with video security throughout public areas and site lighting along the traveled public way and parking area. Surveillance cameras are to connect to the City of Paterson Police Department system. Drawing S2 is a site plan with soil erosion details and notes. A permit is required from the Hudson Essex Passaic Soil Conservation Service prior to final approval. Drawing SK1 indicates the basement and upper story floor plan. Basement plan indicates a sprinkler and utility room, a refuse and recycling room, a bike storage area, a restroom, a gym, and an elevator and staircase. The first floor indicates that there's a doorway access point into the building through recessed access doors located on 12th Avenue. The recessed doors lead to a vestibule area which provides access to a lounge area, the building elevator, the mail room, and stairwell number 1. There's also an interior door that leads to the parking garage. The overhead garage door located on 12th Avenue leads to the 8-space parking garage, which includes 1 handicap parking space. There are 2 second access points located at the northwest corner of the building. These doors, 1 exterior and 1 interior, lead to the second enclosed stairwell. The floor plan for the second, third, fourth, and fifth floor plans are identical in layout. Each floor is 5 units, which includes 4 one-bedroom units and 1 studio unit. All units include a full bathroom, a washer and dryer, a kitchen, and a living room area. The studio unit contains 448 square feet. The one-bedroom units contain 604, 632, 649, and 706 square feet. There's also a 276 square foot tenant meeting room on each floor. Drawing SK2 are the building elevation. The front elevation view from 12th Avenue indicates the garage entry door and the pedestrian access door into the vestibule area. The building indicates a brick veneer facade double hung windows on each floor, and a rooftop molding. The rear elevation view of the building indicates a first floor brick finish and a masonry finish on the upper floors. There's one set of double hung windows on each of the upper floors. The left side elevation indicates the first floor rear stair egress door. Windows are on each of the upper floors. The right side elevation indicates no windows, a first floor masonry finish, and horizontal siding on the upper floors. This is a flat roof building. The building indicates a top height of 46 feet and 8 inches. The intent of the RA-2 residential district of the 4th Ward redevelopment plan is to permit a more intensive residential use of land with various types of dwellings. The surrounding existing dwellings consist of older and newer multifamily dwellings of 2 and 3 stories in height. Within the RA-2 district, the 4th Ward redevelopment plan, there are other examples of both new and recently approved multiple unit residential dwellings that have replaced older structures that have either been vacant and abandoned or on long vacant lots. The applicant requests variances for the following conditions for this proposed 20-unit structure. Front yard setback has a minimum of 3 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed on 12th Avenue. One side yard setback has a minimum of 5 feet is required and 0 feet is provided from the building to the eastern side property line. Rear yard setback has a minimum of 20 feet is required and 8 feet is proposed. Building height has a maximum of 45 feet is permitted and 46 feet and 8 inches is proposed. Number of building stories as a 3.5-story building is permitted and a 5-story building is proposed. Maximum building coverage at 60% building coverage is permitted and 80% building coverage is proposed. Open space and amenity areas of 3,000 square feet is required and 1,950 square feet is proposed. And parking as 20 off-street parking spaces are required and 8 off-street parking spaces are proposed. One parking space for each of the 20 studio and 1-bedroom dwelling units is required as 8 off-street parking spaces are proposed. A variance for 12 off-street parking spaces is requested. As this is a redevelopment area, the planning board must determine whether the granting of the requested variances to allow the number of dwelling units proposed by the applicant is appropriate for the lot and the immediate surrounding area. Residential apartment construction is permitted within the redevelopment area. A mixture of different types of residential units is encouraged. The planning board should decide whether the land area of this parcel is suitable for the number and type of apartment units proposed and whether additional off-street parking needs to be obtained. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant, to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. Surrounding land use. This proposal is in the Wrigley Park section of the city within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan. The area is predominantly residential. There are several schools and religious facilities in the surrounding neighborhood. Including remarks, the applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $2 million. The applicant should incorporate the design elements contained within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan on the site and within the building. At a meeting held on February 10, 2020, the planning board approved a proposal similar to this at 198-200 Harrison Street. That is your staff review for this proposal, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Malaconda?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Chair. Again, thank you for hearing us on a special meeting basis. This developer is committed to the 4th Ward, as we're aware. This is a project, as Mr. Deutsch served to highlight as well, is similar to other proposals in the surrounding area, very similar in size and scope and lot size. So we will move right ahead with Mr. Evans' testimony at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Sharon, please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Matthew Evans, architect, 470 Chamberlain Ave, Paterson, New Jersey.
We accept Mr. Evans as an expert witness.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, will be testifying as an architect this evening. Mr. Evans, you heard Mr. Deutsch's report and you prepared the site plan, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you give us an overview of the site? I mentioned also, it's similar in the,
You're cut.
through the project.
105.
Mr. Maracano, your mic, both your mics, excuse me, both your mics are cutting out. So let me see if I can get, Madam Secretary, to see if she can get IT to fix it.
Okay, okay.
At our end?
Try it again, maybe it was just a quirk. I'm sorry, try it again.
Okay.
I heard both of you were breaking up.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, so, it's on the north side of 12th Avenue on a 5,000 square foot parcel. This parcel right now has, two structures, residential structures, older structures, and an old garage in the back. We would be, proposing to remove those structures and proposing a new 5-story building, similar to ones we've, proposed on Harrison, I believe Beach, and, Hamilton Avenue. This structure would be, one and, studio apartments with parking garage underneath, and the amenity space would be on each floor. Also with the, basement area with the, fitness center and, slash amenity space. We have, those would be similar to what we're proposing, in the past. And, I believe that this, all the units meet or exceed the minimum requirements for square footage in the units, especially, the first, unit 201, 301, 401. We have 706 square feet, which is, over 100 square feet in, excess of the requirement for the 1-bedroom unit. We also have meeting amenity space in the core of the building, which would be for the, tenants.
Okay, so we have, our basement plan does include a sprinkler system as well?
Yeah, we have sprinkler room, refuse recycling, we have also bike storage, and, we have a powder room for the gym, and, that would serve for the, tenants' use.
Okay. And this is completely residential building in the RA2 residential zone?
Yes,
And that's what this zone calls for, is that correct?
yes, so we have the, show the front elevation with the mix of materials, and, that's what we're proposing.
And this frontage is compliance with the aesthetic requirements of the redevelopment plan?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other side views or rear views that, or do you give us any other viewpoint or?
Yeah, I mean, they're very simple, they're standard, it's gonna be the side and the rear, so it doesn't really, we put most of the accent, the aesthetic appeal on the curb,
Right.
and we, that's what we're proposing on this
Okay.
application.
And our security and lighting is very similar to other projects?
Yes, it would be typical with the, police department, the applicant could give more,
Is there any ability to create any landscaping on this site?
we show, as many of these, we have the sidewalk, we have two, which, you can see on front elevation, and we look at the first page, let me see what I have here, we go to this, we have landscaped area for open space in the rear, 400 square feet, so we have green area in the back, which is accessed predominantly by the tenants, and as I mentioned, we have the street, the cherry trees in the front.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Evans, at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Maracon, at this time, I'm gonna open it up to the public. There's anyone in the public that has any questions of Mr. Evans, the architect, based solely on his testimony, please call in at 973-321-1579, and the meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Chairwoman and Commissioners, we have no callers at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, commissioners. I'll open it up for questions. Any commissioners have any questions of Mr. Evans?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks.
Matt, what's next to this building? I was looking at, I Googled it and it looks like it's a two family houses.
Yeah, there's a building to the left, they're both about 3 feet off the property line, so we have light and air between the, our development and these units. So we have a, brick frame, to the left and another 2.5-story building to the right. So they're set off the property line, so we would not be,
Okay, so
coming onto the property.
is it a vacant lot? I mean, is it a lot next, is it a lot there? I didn't have a chance to, but what's next to it? Okay, so you're gonna knock these two down, and what's next to it?
The structures on each side, but our buildings right now are right on the property line, so, the building on our new development will be, 5 feet off the property line, and then we have, one right on the line, but we have, 3 feet on each side.
I wanna know what's next to it. Is it other residential houses next to it?
Yeah.
Cause I'm looking at I Googled it, and it looks like it's two-story properties right next to it, no?
Yeah.
But Mr. Williams will also give you the benefit of his neighborhood analysis, which I think will help address that as well.
Well, yeah, but I still want to question Matt about the height. Because now you're going from, it looks like to me that you're putting a 5-story building next to a 2-story building. Is that right? In between?
Well, we are required, the maximum is 45, we're about 11 inches taller than the required height. So we're within the required height of the building, permitted height, of the RA2 zone.
Okay, you're just not in line with what is in the neighborhood. Is that all it is? Is that what you're saying? That's all it is, right? You're within the height limit.
The immediately adjoining buildings are not in conformity with height. That we would agree with. Only the immediate buildings, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Evans? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Mariponda?
Yes, we'll call Mr. Reed at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
Andy Reed, R-E-I-D.
Mr. Reed, your position again with JCM, if you would, thanks.
I'm Director of Development.
All right, and you're familiar with this project and heard all the testimony this evening?
Yes, I do.
And I know you have some background in terms of the similar projects in the surrounding area, which if you wish to touch upon them, I know Mr. Evans did highlight some of the addresses, but is it fair to say that this number of units on this lot size is very comparable to what this board has seen, reviewed, and found to be approved?
Yes, it is. It's consistent with a few projects that has been approved by this board here. And it fits what we're doing in this area here and the type of tenants that we have been attracting to this area.
All right, now with regard to the mix of the number of units of one bedroom and studio, obviously there is a parking variance which Mr. Williams will address, but we have been able to provide 8 parking spaces on site. Could you tell us when you anticipate the demographics in terms of number of people that will be occupying these units with regard to studio, one bedrooms, and so forth, as to the likelihood in your experience of the need for parking on site?
Yes, with buildings such as this right here with studios and one bedroom, a lot of tenants that we get are more or less like either younger tenants that are like starting out. They use a lot of public transportation or with the car sharing. We don't have no issues with people need a place to park on our site, because like I said, we do have tenants that do have vehicles, but a lot of our tenants are commuters. They use the public transportation, in which in this location, which on the Rosa Parks, we have the 704 bus that comes through there, and then 3 blocks away on Broadway, you have the numerous jitney buses as well as several New Jersey Transit buses that travel that route.
Right. So the public transportation is easily accessible, walking distance. And again, you said your experience is it's either younger or older people that may not have their own vehicles in some cases.
Yes, it is, because believe it or not, you usually get either the young people that's either starting out or an older retired crowd that just want like a 1 bedroom or a studio. And our experience with them, majority of them do not have their own vehicle.
Right. And Mr. Evans talked at length, and so did Mr. Deutsch, about the substantial amenities in this building. That seems to be an attraction for the younger demographic as well. Is that right?
Yes, it is, as well as about maybe 300 feet to the east, the 12-flat basketball courts there, so that's another thing we use for recreation as well.
Right. And you have found in these similar 20-unit buildings that have been approved that parking has not been a problem for you?
The tenants, when we lease these properties out, the tenants know the conditions there, and if they have parking, it's not sufficient, but if they require parking, it's sufficient, they won't. So, and I have bills that we do as here, we have no problem leasing these properties out, and we have no problem with people saying, well, I can't find a parking space, so I can't figure anything. So far, everything's been working for us.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that's all I have, Mr. Reed, at this time. Other than the security system was the same as other projects?
That's our security system, the same as our other projects, as well as our security patrol that we have in this area. Obviously, we have other properties that are very close to this area here.
Right. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Reed, at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask one more time, whoever has their mic on, to please turn it off. Okay, thank you. All right, at this moment, I'm gonna open up questions for Mr. Reed to the public. If anyone has any questions of Mr. Reed based on his testimony, please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID. But somebody's got their mic. Who's got their mic on? Meeting ID number 711-680-0071. Okay, I'll give it 2 minutes for a call-in, 3 minutes for the question. Thank you.
Give it another 15 seconds and I'll let you know.
Okay.
We have no callers at this time. The
Thank
only
you.
2 microphones, Madam Chair, that are on is yours and the attorney's. Everyone else
Okay.
is shut off, okay?
All right, thank you. All right, so, I'll open up questions, for Mr. Reed. I'll open them up to the commissioners. Okay, any commissioner have a question of Mr. Reed?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks?
Mr. Reed,
Commissioner.
I have been meaning to ask these questions over the course of the time since, you've been redeveloping in Paterson, but in the last few weeks and month, I've had questions regarding the rents that is being charged and the taking of Section 8. I had a couple people say to me that in some cases, you don't even accept what Section 8 allows in certain areas, and that you don't accept that. The other thing is, they also said that the rents, that you have almost changed the market value in Paterson to such a degree that the rents are outrageous. I'd like to know, because I thought back about a year and a half ago when I asked that question, you said that they were market value rents. Now, a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,700 or more in the 4th Ward, to me, is considerable. And the fact that I was told that you don't accept Section 8 if it doesn't meet your rental criteria, I need for you to answer that question. I wanted to go on record. Paterson is so poor. I mean, I manage property, so I know what the market rates are in certain areas, but what I want to know from you is, where are you getting these people that can afford these rents?
Okay, Commissioner.
That's the reason. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
No, I don't
I'm saying, people haven't asked me the question.
Okay. So, as far as Section 8, we do not refuse Section 8. Section 8 may refuse us, and this is a situation that's probably going on throughout the country. Section 8, believe it or not, tries to pay an inferior rent. Section 8, like, if you got a project being developed right now across the street from the Home Depot site on 5th Ave. For that project here, Section 8 will pay higher than the rent that we're asking for. So it's not a problem with us. Section 8 is they're choosing who they want to pay higher rents to. And basically, if it's for them, they're willing to pay the higher rents. So it's nothing that we're doing wrong. This is going to follow throughout the whole country with Section 8. It's not that we're refusing. We don't refuse Section 8. And we said we rent the market rate apartments. So,
Mr. Reed.
Yes?
I'm talking 12th Avenue. I'm talking 12th Avenue, a 2-bedroom that was refused by Section 8. You refused to rent through Section 8 because they only agreed to a certain amount.
Oh.
You're saying that didn't happen?
Yeah, because Section 8 pays a substantial lesser amount. But that's the situation with Section 8 where they need to raise their standards. I don't believe so much that what are we saying? Try to leave an area as a poor area, I don't really know what that means. And I'm not, you commissioners, you know I love and respect you, but I don't believe in saying, okay, well, let's try to keep an area poor. Now, there's a situation where.
Excuse me, Mr. Reed, one moment. I'm going to ask this, and this is the very last time I'm going to ask this, and then I'm gonna lose it, okay? Turn off the mics. Turn them off now. All of them, the mics, turn them off.
I would like to know who is speaking at this meeting, please, so I can handle this.
Wilma Brooks and Mr. Reed.
Thank you. Let me put Mr. Reed
And
back on.
evidently Madam Leakey.
Commissioner Brooks, with all my apologies, I'm trying to find it. We're back on. You can speak to Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed, let me just say, I understand what you're saying, but you own properties. Here's what I'm saying. You're not gonna charge a person that you build something in the east side for, a 2-bedroom in the east side, and charge them $1,700, and then charge $1,700 on 12th Avenue. That just doesn't make sense. And in each city that you go into, the differential is because of the area. Don't you agree?
Well, Commissioner, in all due respect, I think that this is maybe a conversation that maybe we can go have with Section 8 on their board meeting. I mean, honestly, more respect, what we're doing is we're trying to redevelop in a blighted area. We're not trying to redevelop where we keep it blighted, so we can keep it as a poor area. Knowing we love the U.S. there to come from us. Maybe situations where Section 8 can help them out. But I don't think that this right here is the appropriate forum to address that. But maybe it's something that needs to be addressed, but needs to be addressed with the appropriate authorities or the appropriate aid.
See, the problem is, it should have been addressed when you first started your projects a long time ago. It should have been addressed, because one of the things that the planning board is supposed to do is make sure that none of the projects is detrimental to the public good. And high and overly high rents affects an application. It always did in the last 20 years that I've been on the board. But what I'm saying to you, I'm not putting you on the spot or anything. I'm just asking you possibly to look into it. Because Florio has changed the whole market value of Paterson.
Commissioner Brooks, if I may, I appreciate Mr. Reed's responses. I think they're absolutely on point. I think there may be a little bit of a discussion that you talk about that could be done in another forum, as Andy indicates, because this is really not the crux or the subject matter of the merits of any particular application, with due respect. I think what we're really talking about here is we're creating new quality housing, and I think Andy's point is that this may not be East Side, it may not be Lakeview, it might not even be Riverside, but this is an opportunity to bring that whole neighborhood that we're developing some degree into conformity with those other neighborhoods. The fact that market value rentals are going up in this area, I think is a tribute to this developer, not a detriment or a negative in any sense of the word, because we're providing for the first time the kind of quality housing that justifies those rents. I think that's really the key point to consider, and it's really not a specific negative in any way to a presentation of a particular development. So, again, the market will bear what the market will bear.
Exactly.
No one is being asked to pay a rent that they cannot afford.
Mr. Americana, you've been on the board. You've been a representative of these applications for over 20 some years also. So now you're going to tell me that I shouldn't ask anything about the market value or the rents, that this is not the forum, because we've always done it years ago. I'm not trying to justify anything, but I'm saying that, don't say it's not the forum to ask the question. It's a legitimate question. But here, I'm gonna bow down to it and let it go. But I do want you, Mr. Reed, to look into what I said. I think you really should. There was something that actually happened. The people came to me and told me, and they said that people coming into these properties from out of town. Now, how doesn't that affect the detriment of the people of Paterson?
Andy, you could respond if you wish.
If they're coming in from New York?
I think Andy's muted. Madam Chair, I think he's muted.
Madam Secretary,
I have it, I'm trying to figure out who's speaking. I will put him back on.
Commissioner Brooks?
Don't finish, Andy, I just want you to answer the question.
Yes, Commissioner Brooks, and I will look to it, as you request, I will look into it, and I will get back to you on this, whether it's in a format that's here in public, or if I do it on the sidebar, but I also will try to make sure something where maybe we can to one of the board meetings at the housing authority and ask them to adjust their situations, whereas they will accommodate the rents for these properties as they do. They pay, let me tell you something, Section 8 does pay these rents for projects that they're involved with. So it's kind of like discriminatory against us private landlords, but the ones that they have contracts in for their development, they do pay these rents. Actually, they pay over they pay over that amount, so where it was 80 and 90%, they pay these people 110%. So they do pay these rich amount, they just don't want to pay it to us, they only pay it to the ones that they have their particular special arrangements and deals with, development deals. But this is a question I will bring forward to them, and we can have this conversation with them, and I do appreciate and respect what you're saying.
Understood, we agree.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Okay, anyone else have a question of Mr. Reed?
Chairwoman, this is Commissioner Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Commissioner Reed, I sincerely appreciate JC investors for investing in the city of Paterson, and we'll look forward to seeing more. But my question is, for 20 units building, we're getting only 8 parking spaces, which is very limited. We all know that. And one of them is going to be assigned for handicap. So I'm not sure what's your plan, how you're going to allocate these parking spaces among 20 units. But is there any priority for the special needs residents? Do you have anything in your head for the special needs?
When you say special needs, as far as look, we're gonna allocate the appropriate handicap spacing, and basically parking will be, first come, first served. But as I said in my earlier testimony, based on my experience, this is not the first building we did with, like to say here, with this amount of parking spaces. They all are successful in that issue with parking.
I totally understand, Mr. Reed, but when you're saying first come, first served, this means it's open for anybody who can just park first. That's what you mean, or?
Whoever requires a parking space that's available. If, like I said, if we have a situation where tenant required parking, we can't provide parking for them, and it don't suit them, they would not live at that building. They would move to another location. But based on my experience with this type of building with studios and one bedrooms, we usually either get a younger generation starting out that don't have a vehicle that relies on public transportation, or B, we have an older population, maybe a senior or someone that's retired, that also depends on car sharing, public transportation, or a relative basically transporting them around, and so they don't need a parking space.
Mr. Reed, I partially agree with your statement, but what I'm saying is, if any case, for example, we have more than one handicapped person living in the building, at that case, are the special need individuals are getting priority to get the space?
But then we'll give them an assigned space.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other questions of Mr. Reed? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Mariconda, your next witness, please.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll call Mr. George Williams.
Mr. Witter, please raise your right hand.
Give me a second so I can unmute him, please. Continue, Mr. Rita Williams.
Can you
Thank
please
you.
raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I most certainly do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Good evening, Ms. Lopez, Commissioners. My name is George Williams with the Nishwayne Group, a planning consultancy located in Montclair, New Jersey at 105 Grove Street.
Thank you. We accept him as an expert witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Williams, obviously your testimony as a planner this evening. You had an opportunity to hear Mr. Deutsch's report, as well as Mr. Evans and Mr. Reed's testimony.
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Okay, you can proceed with your analysis of this site. I know you've had an opportunity to review it and analyze it as well.
I have.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mariconda. So for the record, this is an application for 159 through 161 12th Avenue. It's located in the 4th Ward redevelopment area in the city's Wrigley Park neighborhood, similar to the application you just heard a few moments ago. Your municipal tax records identified it as block 3502, lot numbers 41 and 42. This particular application and property is located in the RA2 residential district of the city's 4th Ward redevelopment area. And the intent of this particular zone district, as you heard from Mr. Deutsch, is to permit a more intense residential use of land with varied dwellings. Density is maintained in the medium range while building height is kept generally compatible with the residential development. Mr. Evans talked about some of the amenities. I just want to repeat a few of those, if you will. First of all, the focus of this particular residential development is on smaller dwelling units, so we have a mix of 1-bedrooms and studios or efficiencies. There's bike storage in this development, similar to the one you heard a few moments ago. There are also gym and community areas for residents. Parking spaces, we know we'll be seeking a variance if there would be 8 parking spaces on site, which is a bit of a departure from some of the other development along this street. The release, we agree with Mr. Deutsch as to his recitation of all the release and also captured in Mr. Evans's zoning table. We note that we do require a height variance. I'm just highlighting this because of the question that was posed earlier. Interestingly enough, despite the number of stories, we have maximum 45 feet allowed. We exceed that height only by 11 inches. In terms of the redevelopment plan, you've heard me mention this in the previous application. The same goals and objectives apply. I would just add that in the 4th Ward redevelopment plan, it speaks to precisely this type of application. On page 13 of your redevelopment plan, it speaks to how the redevelopment designation was chosen. It was due to, and I quote, a combination of having buildings that were substandard or dilapidated, abandoned, or obsolete for a number of reasons. Throughout much of the area, the conditions that led to a redevelopment designation remain. While some buildings and properties have been maintained and renovated, a number of other buildings either remain or have fallen into a state of disrepair. I know this board's heard me say this before. Again, the intent and purpose of a redevelopment plan and planning process is to moribund neighborhood economy where you have all those indices of what we used to call blight. Now we say the term of art is in need of redevelopment. So JCM, as you know, is a developer investor in this area that actually life or breathes life into your redevelopment plan, meets the goals and intention of the redevelopment plans. In this case, one of those goals is to provide quality housing options for area residents, and I would submit to this board that if you were to approve our application, we would meet that goal and objective of your redevelopment plan by providing quality and housing options. Again, in this particular development, unlike the prior one on Rosa Parks, focusing on smaller dwelling units to meet that particular market capture for the tenancy that Mr. Reed mentioned during his comments. Couple of things briefly. Again, there are numerous vacant and abandoned buildings in this section of the Wrigley Park neighborhood. Notably present on 12th Avenue in particular, and by the way, your redevelopment plan calls out Godwin Avenue, 12th Avenue, and Governor Street as the focal point of the redevelopment area because of the blighted conditions. What I'd like to do is use a very simple exhibit, just like the application prior storybook that captures some images from your land use documents and then a number of pictures that were taken during our site visits. I suppose we should mark this one as well.
SA1?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay.
The first image, just like the last exhibit, is slide 2, an aerial photograph. The bold yellow borders indicate our properties, the two lots, lot 41 and 42. Regular shaped lots, they are deep and rectangular. Combined, we have a larger rectangular parcel. Excuse me. As in the other application, we chose to begin identifying other JCM developments in the immediate vicinity. Again, I would say to this board that is particularly significant from a planning perspective because, in my opinion, it begins to demonstrate how JCM is advancing the goals and objectives of your redevelopment plan by heeding the call to do development for quality housing and, in some cases, mixed-use development. So you have development at 113-11712. 210 Governor Street, 196 Rosa Parks Boulevard, 225-229 Rosa Parks Boulevard, and 203-217 12th Avenue. Again, for a fourth ward redevelopment, you can see what an impact is being made, and we thank this board for approving several of those applications. Very briefly, you can see by looking at the aerial photograph at the rooftops, there are a mix of land development patterns in this area. As we get to the pictures, you'll get a better sense of that. Of course, you know this area quite well. The next slide, slide number 3, is simply a zoning image taken from the redevelopment plan showing that our project site is indeed located in the RA2 district of the 4th Ward redevelopment area. Moving to the images now, we're looking at slide 4. This is to Commissioner Brooks, who asked about the surrounding property, and for the rest of the commissioners, obviously. This is a view of 159 and 161 12th Avenue seen from 12th Avenue. And you can see the property to the right, clearly a bit of an odd build out for any neighborhood, but definitely this neighborhood where you have the door and just the one window right at the sidewalk level. Close-up view of the property again, and if you look between the buildings, you can see the garage structure at the rear of the property that was mentioned by Mr. Evans. If approved, these 3 structures would be demolished to make room for the proposed development. Slide number 6 captures other examples of development on the street. This is 151 12th Avenue. At the corner of Rosa Parks Boulevard. And then slide number 7, another example of the land development pattern in this area. You see some of these properties do have garages for their tenants, and then if you look further down the road, they do not. Another streetscape view facing east, again showing some of the mixed land development patterns in the area. Along the street. With that, I'll move to just reiterate what I think Mr. Deutsch mentioned in his testimony. Some of the recent projects include, approved by this board for JCM, include a 54-unit apartment dwelling at 203-217 12th Avenue towards the eastern end of the street. 198-200 Harrison Street is a 20 dwelling unit project proposed by the applicant, which was approved, as I think Mr. Deutsch intimated, on February 10th. In terms of the variances, there are several, as you heard before. I would submit to the board again that the appropriate context for all of the bulk and area and parking relief sought by the applicant would be cognizable under the C2 context. That C2 variance, also referred to as a flexible C variance, allows the board to consider a balance of the benefits versus detriments. And if you agree that on the whole, what's being proposed is a better application, better than a strict application of your code, or in this case, redevelopment plan, you can approve the relief. Particularly important as we look at the parking relief, but I'm going to look at each of the reliefs as a whole for a moment, and then I'll spend a bit more time on the parking specifically. So for the record, let me just go through the reliefs again. And again, we agree with Mr. Deutsch's recitation. Front yard setback, minimum rear yard setback, excuse me, minimum side yard setback, minimum height, both in terms of stories and feet, maximum building lot coverage, minimum parking spaces, 20 are required, 8 are proposed, and last but not least, open space, 3,000 required, and we come in just under 2,000 square feet. Similar to the last application, JCM has found that for these portions of the redevelopment area, the interior open space amenities or interior amenities are often a good trade-off for the required open space for security reasons and other reasons, and I'll get to that in a moment. So in the C2 context, again, the board understands that the municipal land use law requires a showing that the reliefs, if granted, would advance the purposes of zoning. Those purposes of zoning are articulated in the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law, or MLUL. In my opinion, the following purposes would be advanced. Subsection M, to encourage the coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with a view to lessening the cost of development. In this particular instance, and this is going to correlate with the parking variance relief as well, but in general, the idea of building infill development in dense urban areas, particularly in redevelopment areas, and maximizing or leveraging the infrastructure, in this case, the public transportation infrastructure, access to the open space, the public open space in the area, all would advance subsection M. You're going to hear me speak in a moment about state policy for smart growth, but in my professional opinion as a planner, subsection M of the purposes of zoning and smart growth go hand in hand. Subsection I, the oft-used purpose of zoning for these types of applications is to promote desirable environment through creative development techniques and good civic design. You've heard testimony from Matt Evans about his design approach to this building, both in terms of fenestration, building materials, the overall look of the building, and of course, how he was able to design the site plan so that the proposed development works on this particular lot. In my opinion, if you were to grant this application, you would certainly advance subsection I of the purposes of zoning. The project will fill in a gap along 12th Avenue and reinforce residential streetscapes as required by your redevelopment plan. Lastly, and I hinted at this a few moments ago, the advancement of state policy can be considered a purpose of zoning as well. Smart growth principles suggest infill development, urban infill development and redevelopment areas in particular, dense, compact residential development that takes advantage of existing infrastructure as opposed to encouraging sprawl development in the state of New Jersey. Paterson's already ahead of that curve it realizes that one of its assets is the infrastructure that you have here, whether it's open space, public transportation, and other infrastructure, sewer, etc., that the redevelopment plan seeks to take advantage of or leverage that infrastructure. So for all those reasons, and creating a walkable neighborhood, smart growth principles would be advanced if you were to grant the application. For the bulk and area release, and I'll talk to parking in a second, the Pullen court case suggests that planning boards can look at the aggregate of the bulk and area deviations if you feel that on the whole, the overall site plan and development make sense in terms or in the context of your redevelopment plan or your zoning ordinance or your master plan. That is, that taken as a whole, the development is beneficial to the neighborhood, removes the blight, removes vacancies, replaces dilapidated structures, which is the case in this application. First has to be showing that there's no detriment for the bulk and area deviations. It's my opinion that there will certainly be no substantial detriment to the public good and absolutely no detriment to your redevelopment plan or master plan, which is why, why I began with citations from both of those documents. Turning to the parking now, I want to begin by saying the emphasis of this development is on smaller dwelling, one bedrooms, and efficiencies. We have the benefit of an applicant with significant empirical data about developing in the Fourth Ward redevelopment area in particular, and along 12th Avenue, Rosa Parks, Governor specifically. And remember that your redevelopment plan calls out those three streets as being the focal point of the blighting conditions that made it appropriate for designating this area as a redevelopment area. Hello?
I'm gonna ask you to hold your comments about the parking.
Hello?
Who's on the line?
Yeah, the boy, Lorna. Lorna is in the line.
Okay, I'm sorry, you need to stay off the line. Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary.
Yes, ma'am, I was in the other room trying to figure out how to mute.
Right, well, I have a caller or something on this line.
Yes, she was from the previous application, we were trying to stop her from calling in. She's continuously calling, but we're handling it. I apologize to everyone, thank you.
Okay, because Mr. Williams is trying to give his report, thank you. Okay, Mr. Williams, continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that leaves us with the parking. Interestingly enough, your master plan and I would submit your redevelopment plan both understand the trade-offs of incentivizing development in redevelopment areas and right-sizing parking supply in urban areas, particularly in redevelopment areas. Your master plan on page 6-45 section says, and I quote, I'm going to read this section. Section 500-7.3 of the Land Development Ordinance should be amended. Parking requirements are intended to ensure that adequate provisions for vehicular storage are provided for any development and that the streets or neighboring properties are not burdened with storage of vehicles for one property or use. And here's what's particularly poignant for this application. While insufficient off-street parking can be problematic, excessive off-street parking has its own negative consequences as well. Providing off-street parking can be expensive and even cost prohibitive for a developer, and it also uses space that could potentially be put to another productive use. And so, in my opinion, for the board, again, your master plan, being forward-thinking like any comprehensive plan should be, realizes the principles of smart growth, understands some of the challenges of planning in redevelopment areas, and more importantly, has thought about the contemporary literature around parking, supply, and demand, specifically in urban versus suburban contexts. And so that takes me to some of the literature that my office regularly turns to in terms of parking in urban areas. There are a couple of desk references that we use. One is Infill Development and a Policy Guide from my alma mater. It's the Center for Urban Policy Research at Rutgers, and they have written a number of articles about parking. In this particular treatise, they speak to the need to right-size parking supply, particularly in urban areas. I'm going to read two quick excerpts. The national and New Jersey parking standards largely reflect suburban and exurban development, which is mostly lower density, Euclidean zone, and auto-dependent. Factors increase in the need for parking rather than smart growth furthering development. What's intended by that is that for suburban development, where you've got lower density, larger lot size, and less access to public transportation, it necessarily creates a greater demand for auto dependency, which we all know now is not good planning, but the antithesis of good planning and environmental control. It goes on to say, which leans towards urban and older suburban locations is often higher density and mixed use, and typically benefits from transit access characteristics, diminishing the parking need. And so the author goes on to suggest that there is a need to right-size parking supply requirements, particularly in urban areas, transit-oriented development areas, and in redevelopment areas. There's a court case, the Valenti v. Absecon court case, which dovetails with much of the planning literature on this topic. And in Valenti, it suggests that if the empirical data demonstrates that the actual demand for parking is less than that of the required demand supply of parking in the local land use documents, then the board may rely comfortably on the empirical data demonstrating the actual demand for parking in a given area. In this case, you have the testimony of Mr. Reed, who represents the applicant and has firsthand knowledge of the actual parking demand for this type of housing product in this very specific locale. And based on Mr. Reed's testimony, he knows that the smaller dwelling units, one bedrooms and efficiencies, tend to attract a tenant profile where the requirement for on-site parking is significantly less. Mr. And I'm paraphrasing, mentions that many of his tenant experiences indicate that the tenants will use mass transportation, which again is significant in the context of smart growth and leveraging existing infrastructure. He mentioned that some of his tenants also use shared mobility options like Uber, etc. So for all those reasons, it's my opinion that the board could grant the requested parking relief in the C2 context because of the Valenti case, the planning literature on parking in urban redevelopment areas, and because of your master plan's very articulated recognition that less parking is often better in sections like this one. So for all those reasons, I think, I submit to the board, you could grant both the bulk and area deviations under the C2 context, as well as the parking variance that's being requested.
Okay, we thank you for your testimony, Mr. Williams. Madam Chair, that would conclude our testimony. Of course, Mr. Williams is available for any questions.
Okay, so at this time I'm gonna reach out to the public. If anyone in the public has any questions for Mr. Williams only, okay, please call in at 973-321-1579. The meeting ID number is 711-680-0071. I'll allow 2 minutes for call-ins, 3 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Chairwoman Northrup and Commissioners, we have no callers at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Okay, anyone have any questions of Mr. Williams based on his testimony? Commissioners? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Maricondo, would you like to summarize?
We thank you again, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for the special meeting opportunity. I think the testimony in this case, we make very careful intentions here to cover all the issues from the architectural testimony and the applicant's testimony, as well as Mr. Williams' testimony, to emphasize the trend of development in this area that this particular developer has established on this particular lot size with this number of units being very important in terms of providing what the redevelopment zone specifically calls for in this area. I also wanted to emphasize that Mr. Williams' planning testimony, I think, was right on point with respect to establishing the positive criteria for allowing the variance to be granted with regard to parking and the other bulk issues. This is a site based on the applicant's experience in our planning testimony and the case law that really governs this type of situation, that allows us to provide the number of parking spaces that are realistic for this kind of development. One of the positives about this project is that it earmarks units for demographics with lesser number of bedrooms. So the applicant is cognizant of the varied needs of the residents of the various wards of the city. So that's why this variance, in this particular case, in terms of the parking, is very much warranted. And it is justified by the plan, the circumstances, and the applicant's knowledge of the area, and more importantly, buttressed by the planner's testimony, which is right on point in our estimation. So we asked for the opportunity for the board to consider a motion for approval, as this is again a continuation of positive development for the surrounding area. I would ask you again, note that no one has appeared to object. The neighborhood, of course, has that opportunity. The neighborhood, I think, is well aware of the positive trend that we're looking to continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioners? Would any
Let me
commissioner
try
like...
and mute everyone because I muted before, so give me a second. Let me unmute. Okay, I'm muting everyone, so here we go.
Rewind from muted. Is there any commissioner that would like to make a motion on this application? Sound, honestly, what is that? I can't feel it. What is that sound?
I understand.
Seriously, come on, guys, come on.
Commissioner Brooks, are you making a motion?
I didn't say anything, right?
I'm asking you, are you going to make a motion so I can mute you?
If I make a motion, can we go home? Is that what it is?
No, I didn't say that. I'm just trying to figure out the status.
Well, it's not, it wasn't from me. Until you,
I'm just asking because I'm trying to figure out where the noise is coming from. Can everyone, should we get a motion in?
I'll make the motion, go ahead. I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
An application of JMC Investors, 1012 LLC, 449 East 18th Street, Addison, New Jersey, 07524, for property located at 159-161 12th Avenue, Block 3502, Lots 41 and 42, be approved, subject to site plan approval, bulk variances, city engineer, HEP Soil Conservation District.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. Second by Commissioner Ceballos. Roll call, please.
Commissioners, Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Ceballos,
Yes.
Commissioner Cleese,
Yes?
Commissioner Santana,
Yes?
Commissioner Udine,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fisher,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Norton.
Yes.
This application has been granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed, I would like for you to call me, whenever you have a chance.
Commissioner, I would definitely will, and I would definitely will keep in touch with you and report back to you, and you'll be my ally on this fight with the Housing Authority. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I will.
All right, I just have Mr. Deutsch. Any other business this evening?
No, not this evening.
All right, our next meeting is Wednesday?
Correct.
Okay, fine. All right, so do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Ceballos, second by Commissioner Udine. This is Udine, right? Commissioner Udine, you second it?
I think someone else, yeah.
Okay, and all in favor?
Fisher.
Okay, this is Commissioner Fisher. Okay, sorry, Commissioner Fisher second, okay, and all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, great.
Aye.
Everyone have a good rest of the evening. See you on Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
All right, you. Good night.